Good evening, all of you. In the last session, we discussed about EBS volumes. The last session we discussed about EBS volumes. Can you tell me what is a EBS? Elastic Block Store. EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. EBS is used to attach additional volumes to the EC2 instances. EBS is used to store the data permanently. EBS is used to store the data permanently. Right. Using EBS, we can create the volumes and we can store the data up to 16 TB in the volumes. Using EBS, we can create volumes to store additional data. EBS volumes capacity is 16 TB. That means 16,000 GB. EBS volumes capacity is 16 TB. 16 TB. That means 16,000 plus GB. That much data you can store in the EBS volume. Now, guys, here when we create a EC2 instance, we are going to get the root volume by default. When we create the EC2 instance, we are going to get some root volume. Okay, what is this root volume? Root volume is the default volume that we are going to get for our EC2 instance. Root volume will be available with 8 GB capacity. When we create EC2 instance, we will get by default EBS root volume. When we create EC2 instance, we will get default EBS volume that is called as root volume. By default, root volume capacity is 8 GB. By default, root volume capacity is 8 GB. We cannot detach the root volume. Root volume is mandatory for EC2. Root volume is mandatory for EC2. We cannot remove root volume from the EC2. We cannot remove root volume from EC2. We cannot remove root value from the EC2. Now, this root volume is temporary. Root volume is temporary. If we terminate EC2, then we will lose the root volume and we will lose the data available in the root volume. If we terminate EC2 instance, then we will lose root volume and we will lose the data in the root volume, and we will lose data available in the root volume. That is the default behavior. Guys, able to understand? When we are launching a EC2 instance, we are getting some root volume by default. When we are launching EC2 instance, we are getting some root volume by default. The default capacity of the root volume is 8 GB. We cannot remove the root volume from the EC2. That is the mandatory volume. We cannot remove root volume from EC2. That is the mandatory. Root volume is the temporary. If we terminate EC2 instance, then we will lose the data available in the root volume. So how can we store the data permanently? To store the data permanently, we can go for EBS. To store the data permanently, we can use EBS. That is Elastic Block Store. EBS volumes are permanent stores. We can store the data in the EBS volume. These are permanent. There are several types of EBS volumes are available. There are 5 types of EBS volumes are available. EBS having several types of volumes like general purpose, IOPS, throughput, cold, magnetic. Like that, there are several types of volumes are available, right? General purpose volume, provisioned IOPS, throughput optimized, cold volumes, and magnetic volumes are available. So there are 5 types of volumes are available in the EBS. Okay, based on the requirement, we can use any one of that volume and we can store the data. Okay, now as I mentioned that today we are going to work on one lab task, guys. Today we are going to work on one lab task. What is our task is, I want to create a EC2 instance with Amazon Linux AMI. When I create the EC2 instance, I will get the root volume, default EBS root volume 8 GB. I want to create one additional EBS volume with 10 GB, which is a permanent storage. Attach that volume of 10 GB for storing the data. Once I attach that volume, I want to connect to the EC2 instance and verify the volumes. EBS volume also should display. Default volume will be available and I want to see the additional volume also. Once this additional volume is attached, I want to mount that additional volume to one directory and I want to store the data. So once the data is stored, I will detach the EBS volume from the EC2 and I will stop or terminate my first EC2 instance. So what I am doing in the 7 steps here, I'm creating a EC2 with the default root volume. Then I'm creating one EBS volume. I'm attaching the EBS volume to the EC2 instance and I'm checking that EBS volume is attached or not. Then I'm mounting that volume to one directory in my machine. Then I'm going to store the data into EBS volume. So EBS volume is a permanent store. EC2 volume, EC2 root volume is a temporary. My EBS volume is a permanent volume. I will store the data into my EBS volume. Then I'm going to remove that EBS from the EC2. I will stop the EC2. When I delete the EC2, when I terminate the EC2, are we going to lose the root volume? When I terminate my EC2, are we going to lose the root volume or not? When we terminate the EC2, we are going to lose the root volume. If I terminate my EC2, will I lose EBS volume? If I terminate my EC2, will I lose my EBS volume? I will not lose my EBS volume. EBS volume is a permanent store. EBS volume is a permanent store. Okay, whatever the EBS volume I have created, I'm going to attach that EBS volume to one more instance. I'm going to attach that EBS volume for one more instance and I will check the data which is available. Whatever the data that I have stored previously, am I able to access the data in the new EC2 instance with the EBS volume or not? Did you understand the lab task for today? What I am going to do today? Do you understand what I am going to do today? Could you please read these steps, guys? 12 steps I have to perform now. I have to perform these 12 steps today. This is the task for us. This is our today's task. Could you please read it? Could you please read it? What is our lab task for today? Guys, 2 minutes. Just read those 12 points. To show you, EBS is permanent store. This is lab. This lab will prove you EBS is permanent store. This lab will prove you EBS is permanent store. It will prove you EBS is permanent store. Okay. Understand? Guys, let me know once you completed the task reading. Once you understand the task, let me know so that we'll start the practicals for that. Completed, na? Very good. Now, what I am going to do here, guys, I'm going to take one EC2 instance, guys. I'm going to take one EC2 instance. Got it? EC2 instance, EC2 1, EC2 instance 1. EC2 instance 1. This EC2 instance will have by default root volume. This is a root volume, 8 GB. Root volume will be available for the EC2, 8 GB. All right. Now I'm going to create one EBS volume. I'm going to create one EBS volume with 10 GB. I will create one EBS volume with 10 GB. With the 10 GB space. The default we can give any space up to 60 dB, but it is costly. It is additional volume. I'm going to give 10 GB additional volume for the EBS. Now what I will do is I'm going to attach this EBS volume to this EC2 instance. I'm going to attach this EBS volume to the EC2 instance. EBS volume I'm going to attach to EC2 instance. Attach EBS to EC2. Attaching. I'm going to attach the volume, EBS volume to EC2 instance. After attaching, store the data into EBS. Store the data into EBS. Now, store the data into EBS volume. Store the data into EBS volume. Okay. After storing the data into EBS volume, then what I will do is I will terminate this EC2. I will terminate this EC2. If I terminate the EC2 one, am I going to lose the data? Am I going to lose the data in the EBS, or I will not lose the data in the EBS? Am I going to lose the data in the EBS? I'm not going to lose the data in the EBS. I'm not going to lose the data in the EBS. I will terminate it. After terminating this, what I will do is I will launch one more EC2. I will launch one more EC2 instance, that is EC2 instance 2. EC2 instance 2. This EC2 instance will get the default root volume also, 8 GB. Default root volume will be available with 8 GB. Now I am going to attach this EBS volume to new EC2 instance. New EC2 instance. Can I access the data? Can I access the data available in the EBS in the instance 2? Yes or no? Yes, this is what our lab today. This is what our lab today, so that I will prove you that EBS is permanent. Root volume is temporary, EBS is permanent. First, I am going to launch one EC2, which will contain a root volume, that is a temporary. Right? I want permanent. Then I will create one EBS volume with a 10 GB space. That EBS volume I will attach to EC2 1. Then I will write the data to EBS. I will write the data to EBS. Okay. Then after, I will terminate the EC2 1. I will terminate the EC2 1. I will detach the volume from the EC2 1. Then I will create the new EC2. I will attach the EBS. Whatever the EBS I have attached to first instance, I will detach from there. I will attach to second instance. And I will try to access the data from the EBS in the second instance. Is it possible or not? Guys, come on. Is it possible or not? Possible. How it is possible? Why it is possible? EBS is a temporary or EBS is a permanent? EBS is temporary or EBS is permanent? EBS is permanent. Okay. Shall we start with our task now? Shall we start with our lab today? Come on. Yeah. Guys, here it is difficult to remember all these steps. I have prepared a material also. What are the commands that you need to execute step by step? I have given the beautiful notes also for this. You have to execute several commands in the Linux in order to perform the today's lab. Today's lab is completely practical. We are going to work with EBS volumes, and we are detaching the EBS volumes from one instance to another instance. Okay. All right. What is the first step? Create the EC2 Linux instance with the Amazon Linux to AMI. Chalo, start karenge. Now, can you see my EC2 dashboard? Can you see my EC2 dashboard? Do I have any instances in my dashboard? Do I have any instances? No. Do I have any volumes? No. Completely my account is blank. I have just one key pair and I have security group. Remaining everything is 0. No instance available, no load balancer, no snapshot, no volume, nothing. Only I have key pair and I have security group. Remaining things are 0. I'm going to start from the beginning. Launch instance. Launch instance. Yesterday we discussed it. What is AMI? Select Amazon Linux. T2 micro family member I'm using, free tier eligible. Instance details by default one I am taking. User data I'm not giving anything. Just click on storage. What is the storage we are getting by default? What is the storage we are getting by default? Root volume. Can you see the name of the device, guys? Can I say it is a XVDA? Can I note down this? Root volume. Can I note down the path of the root volume as dev/XVDA? Dev/XVDA is the root device. Yes. Click on add tags, no tags, configure security group, select the existing security group. We have our security group created with SSH and HTTP. Review and launch. Click on launch. Select existing key pair. Launch instance. Instance launched. Go to this instance, guys. Let me give my name, my EC2, my Linux instance 1, my Linux VM 1. Save this. My Linux VM 1. Save it. Yeah, perfect. Guys, are you able to see the instance now? Are you able to see the instance? For this instance, one public IP got generated. Go to putty. Let's connect to this instance. Select SSH auth browse. Key pair I have selected. Appearance I'm changing to 10 so that you can see my 20 so that you can see my putty font clearly. I'm using EC2 instance, so my username is EC2 user. Successfully I have authenticated. Guys, can you tell me how can I check the volumes available? There is a command called lsblk. List the attached volumes in the EC2. What is the command, guys? lsblk is the command which will give you the volumes available. Guys, can you tell me which volume is available now? XVDA. Can you see what is this XVDA? Can I say it is a root volume? Can I say that it is a root volume? What is the space available for the root volume? What is the size of the root volume? 8 GB. Can I say it is a 8 GB root volume? XVDA. Now, this XVDA is a permanent store or XVDA is a temporary store? XVDA is a permanent store or XVDA is a temporary store? It is a temporary store. Now, what I need to do? I want to create the EBS with a 10 GB. I want to attach the EBS to EC2. Then I will verify my EBS is attached or not. Can we do that now? Go to volumes. Here we have one volume that is a default volume. We have created EC2 na default volume is created. Let's create a one additional volume. General purpose volume. Size I am taking 10 GB. Click on create volume. Volume is created with 10 GB. Now I will say that my EBS volume 1. So with this, can I say we have created one EBS volume? Can I say one EBS volume is created with 10 GB? That is the additional volume we are creating in the AWS. It is still getting created. Let's refresh. Now check the status of this additional volume. What it is saying that one volume is in use. That means it is a default volume attached to EC2 already. Another one is available. That means it is created with a 10 GB space. It is available to use. Now, can you tell me how can I attach this EBS volume to EC2 instance? Can you tell me how can I attach this EBS volume to EC2 instance? Go to actions, attach volume, select the instance. I'm selecting the instance which is running. This is the device name it is going to take. Okay. That device name SDF. In some machines, it may display as a SDF. In some machines, it may display as a XVDF. Are you getting my point? What they are saying? Boss, you created one volume. You are attaching that volume to the EC2. Then your device name may display as a SDF or it may display as a XVDF. It depends upon the system that you are creating. Click on attach volume. Wow, successful. Now see the status of the EBS volume. This is also under use. In use or not? What is the state of the volume? In use. That means, can I say now my EC2 instance is having 8 GB root volume and a 10 GB additional volume for the EC2 one? Come on guys, total how much space is available for my EC2 instance one now? 18 GB. 8 GB is the root volume, 10 GB is the additional volume. 8 GB is the temporary and 10 GB is the permanent. Chalo, let's check it. Really, do we have that volume attached? Wow. Guys, can you see LSBLK when I execute first time, which volume it is displaying? XVDA. When I execute LSBLK second time, is it displaying only XVDA? Is it displaying XVDF also? Is it displaying XVDF also? Now, can you tell me which is root volume, which is EBS additional volume? Come on, can you tell me the device name of the root volume and can you tell me the device name of the additional volume? Both are EBS only. Root volume is the EBS volume, additional volume is also EBS volume. XVDA is the EBS root volume. XVDA 8 GB, that is the EBS root volume. XVDF is the additional EBS volume with 10 GB. Are you guys getting my point? Are you guys getting my point? How to attach a volume and how to see that the volume is attached or not? Yes, perfect. Now, what is the next command? Check if the volume has any data using the below command. So this command is used to check, does that XVDF is the root volume na? XVDF is the root volume. XVDA is the root volume. XVDF is the additional volume. XVDF is the additional volume that we have created. Guys, see, I am writing the device names. XVDA is the root volume. XVDF is the additional volume. Now I want to check whether that additional volume having any data. Check it. Check that whether that additional volume having any data or not. Sudo file, yes. XVDF data. Okay, there is some dummy data is available. Can we format that data? Can we format that data? Yes. Format the partition using below command. This command is used to format that data. Whatever the data is available in the EBS, I just want to format it. Okay. So formatting is completed. That EBS volume is empty now. EBS volume is empty. That got formatted. Okay. Once it is formatted, mount the disk partition as a new disk. Switch to the root by using sudo su command. Then create one new folder. Okay. Let's switch to sudo command. Sudo su. I'm switching to new user. I'm switching to new user. I want to create one directory to mount that EBS volume. I want to switch to super user and I want to mount that. Sudo make dir new disk. I'm creating one disk, guys. Now ls-l, ls-l, new disk is created in the root folder. Go to root folder, cd space double dot ls-l, ls-l. Can you see one folder is created with a name called new disk? Can you see one folder created, one directory created with a new disk? Yes or no? Yes, with the new disk, one folder got created. Once it is created, you mount the EBS volume to new disk using this command. That means whatever the EBS volume is created, I am attaching that EBS volume to new disk folder. I'm attaching the EBS volume to new disk folder. Now observe this command. New disk folder I have attached. Now let's go for df-h. Let's go for df-h. Now can you see XVDF? Can I say it is a additional EBS volume? Can I say it is a additional EBS volume? How much space available now? 9.2 GB. Actually, we created with 10 GB and it is having now 9.2 GB. 9.2 GB is available. Okay. What is the meaning of a mounting? I have pointed EBS volume to this directory in my system. Guys, are you able to understand what is this command? Sudo mount /dev/xvdf /dev/xvdf is the EBS additional volume device name. I am mounting this device to new disk folder in my system. Okay. So here, if you observe, by using df-h command, /dev/xvdf is the device name of the EBS additional volume. That volume is mounted to new disk folder. That means whatever the data I store into this folder, I mean directory, whatever the data I store in this directory, where that data will be stored, that data will be stored into EBS additional volume. That is called mounting. Guys, are you able to understand what is the meaning of mounting here? I am pointing EBS volume to one directory in my system. I'm creating one directory and I am pointing that EBS additional volume to this directory. If I store the data into this directory, what does it mean? If I am storing the data into this directory, what does that mean? That means I am storing the data into EBS volume. So that is the command that I have given. Okay, df-h command to display. Navigate to the new disk directory. It is available under root. So you can go to the new disk folder. Once you have been in the new disk folder, cd space new disk folder, cd space new disk folder, ls-l. Now there is some default data we got, last plus found. Let me create one file, touch f1.txt, touch f1.txt, then write some data, cat f1.txt. Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Enter, Control D. Now see cat f1.txt. Cat f1.txt. So can I say my f1.txt file is having some data? Can I say my f1.txt file is having some data? Yes or no? Where this f1. File is available? What is my present working directory? New disk. New disk. Let's come out from this. Okay, ls-l. What is this new disk? New disk is available where? New disk is available in the root folder. df-h. Now can I say that? Can I say that this is the EBS additional volume is mounted to new disk folder. 9.8 GB total space. 1% of that disk we have used. I have just created one dummy file f1.txt. I have stored some data into EBS volume. Guys, now do you understand how to store the data to EBS volume? This is the very famous interview question they will ask you. Everybody will say EBS volume is used to create additional space for the EC2. But how can you store the data to the EBS volume from your putty? That's where mounting comes into picture. Okay, so these are the commands. First, we are creating the EC2 instance with the default root volume. Then we are creating additional EBS volume with 10 GB. We are attaching the EBS volume of 10 GB to store the data to the EC2. Attach EBS volume of 10 GB to EC2 for storing the data. To EC2 for storing the data. All right. Then connect it to EC2 instance and verify the volumes. EBS volume should be displayed. How I am connecting to EC2 instance? By using putty. How I am verifying the values? lsblk is the command. lsblk command will display how many volumes are available. So here, if you use lsblk command, it will display the values. xvda 8 GB root volume, xvdf additional volume 10 GB. That xvdf volume is mounted to new disk folder. New disk folder is available in the root folder. Okay. Now I am checking how many volumes are available by using lsblk command. I am able to identify that xvdf is available, which is additional value. I want to check that is there any data available in this volume. Sudo file s dev/xvdf, which is going to display the data. If you want to delete that. If you want to format that, you can execute this command. Okay. Now I want to mount this disk partition as a new disk, right? Switch to the root user, using sudo command. Then I'm creating a new directory in the root folder. I'm sudo make directory new disk. Then I'm mounting. This command is very important, guys. Mount EBS volume to the new disk using this command, sudo mount /dev/xvdf/new disk. So this is the name of the additional value I am mounting to new disk. Why I am mounting? Whatever the data I store into this folder, this directory, that means it will be stored into EBS. Okay. How to check the mounts? df-h I can use to check the mounts. Once it is done, I'm navigating to the disk folder that is called a mounted folder. I'm creating a file in the mounted folder. I'm storing some data into that file. So with this, can I say my task is completed? With this, can I say my task is completed, guys? First, one instance task is completed now. Step 1 completed. Step 2 completed. Step 3 also completed. Can I say that? Step 1, step 2, step 3 completed. Step 1, EC2 created. Step 2, EBS created. Step 3, attached EBS to the EC2, and I have stored some data into my EBS by using mounting concept. Now I am closing my putty. I'm closing my putty, leave it. I'm closing my putty, leave it. Okay. Now go to EC2. Go to EC2. Can I detach my value? Can I detach my value? Yes or no? Yeah, fine. For that, what I will do is first I will go to EC2 dashboard. Instances currently running. Select this instance. Select this instance. Action. Instance state. Stop it. I'm stopping my instance, guys. You can stop or you can terminate. You can stop or you can terminate. The instance is getting stopped. Once the instance is stopped, I'm going to this volume action. I will do detach of that volume. Once the instance is stopped successfully, then I can do volume detach. It is getting stopped. Let's wait for some time. Let's wait for some time to detach that volume. It got stopped. I'll go to volumes, action, still it force detach volume. Yeah, I'm going to do the force detach. Force detach. Yes, perfect. Volume got detached from EC2. Volume got detached from EC2. What is the state of the volume now? What is the state of the volume now? Volume is in use or volume is available? Volume in use or volume is available? Volume is available. Can I create one more EC2 and can I attach this volume to the new EC2? That is what our task, right? That is what our task. Can I create one more EC2, new EC2, launch instance, go to this, launch instance, second EC2 I'm doing, select T2 family, default configuration, root volume, XVDA, 8 GB, no problem. Security group, I'm going to configure existing security group, which is our Linux security group. Do view on launch, click on launch, key pair, launch instance. Perfect. Second EC2 is getting started. My Linux VM2. Let me take it. My Linux VM2. Save this. It is getting started. Let's wait. You see, guys, how many instances are available now? You see how many instances are available? 2 instances are available. First instance I have started. I added EBS. I stored data. I detached EBS. I stopped my instance. That part is done. Now, second instance is running. Okay, let's go to second instance, guys. Go to second instance. Open putty. Connect to the second instance. Connect to second instance. SSH auth browse AWS key pair appearance change, bold 20. Okay, open. I'm using EC2 user. Perfect. Can you tell me how can I check the volumes in the EC2? How can I check the volumes of my EC2? Volumes available in the EC2. What is the command? LSBLK. LSBLK. So can you tell me how many volumes are available now? Which volume is available? Can you tell me which volume is available? Root volume is available. By default, root volume is available. What is the name of the root volume? XVDA. XVDA. Can we attach EBS to this instance? Can we attach EBS to this instance? Yes or no? Chalo. Go to volumes. Go to volumes. Select the EBS volume. It is available now. Action. Attach volume. Attach volume. Select the instance. Which one? VM1 or VM2? What is our current instance now? VM1 or VM2? We need to go for VM2 now. VM2, which is in the running state. Which is in the running state. Now click on attach volume. Oh, that volume. Guys, can you tell me why 3 volumes are available? Can you tell me why 3 volumes are available here? Any idea? 2 instances we have created now. Every instance will have a root volume by default. Instance 1 having one root volume, instance 2 having one root volume, and I have created one additional volume also. First instance root volume, second instance root volume, and one additional volume. So total 3 volumes are available. Are you able to understand this? Now, before going to attach the volume, can you see? Yeah, attached already. Attached already. Now, when I do LSBLK, how many volumes are displaying now? How many volumes are displaying now? 2. In this, can you tell me what is the instance root volume? What is additional volume? XVDA is the root volume. XVDF is the additional volume. Root volume capacity by default 8 GB. Additional volume I have created with 10 GB. Additional volume I have created with the 10 GB. Perfect. Now, what is the next step? What is the next step now? What we need to do? I have detached volume from EC2 1 and stop EC2 instance. Create the new EC2 done. Attach EBS volume done. Connected. I have checked it. EBS volume attached to EC2 instance. Then what is the next step? Can we create a new directory? Can we mount our EBS volume to our new directory? Yes or no? Yes. Let's create one new directory. Let's mount. Before going to do, let's check it. Is it mounted already? Is it mounted already? No. Is there any mounting available, guys? XVDF. Mounting available or mounting not available? Come on. Mounting available or mounting not available? Mounting not available. Do you know how to do the mounting? Yes, we know how to do the mounting. Let me create one directory which is called new drive. I have created a directory with the name called a new drive. Then I'm going to mount XVDF to the new drive. I'm doing that mounting. Only root can use these options. So I want to mount this directory the new drive. For that I need to connect as a root user sudo su mount XVDF to the new drive. Mount XVDF to the new drive. I have mounted. Once I have mounted, can I check it? ls-l new drive is available. Now cd space new drive, cd space new drive, ls-l. Wow. Can you see f1.txt in the new drive folder? Did I create this f1.txt? How I got this f1.txt? Can you see the data available in the f1.txt? Cat f1.txt. Hi, how are you? Am I able to attach EBS volume to the new instance? When I stop my EC2, am I losing the data available in the additional value, or I'm not losing the data available in the additional value? I'm not losing the data available in the additional value. Are you able to follow this? Are you able to follow this? ls-l new drive. ls-l new drive. So now I'm attaching EBS volume to the new instance. In the new instance, I'm creating one directory. I'm mounting EBS volume to the new directory. When I do the mounting of this EBS volume to the new directory, the data which is available in the EBS volume is coming to this directory. I'm getting the old data back. I'm getting old data back. I'm able to see the data by using ls-l command. ls-l command f1.txt. What is this f1.txt? The data which I have created earlier. When I connected to instance 1, I have mounted the EBS volume to one drive and I created the data. And I have stopped that instance. I have created a new instance. I mounted the EBS volume to the new instance. Whatever the data is there in the EBS volume is coming to my directory, which I have mounted in the EC2 instance 2. So with this, can you say that EBS volumes are permanent storage? Root volumes are EBS root volume is temporary. EBS additional volume is permanent. Now, are we able to complete our lab session? Are we able to complete our lab session? Yeah. Now read the steps. Now read the steps. Detach value means removing the value from the EC2. Force detach. Sometimes it is not in the state to detach, so we are forcefully detaching that volume from the EC2. That's it. It will take, once you stop your EC2, it will take some time to detach the volume. But if you want to detach immediately, then you will go for force detach. Mounting nothing but syncing EBS volume with our directory. Mounting nothing but establishing the syncing between EBS volume and our directory so that whatever the data we store in the directory, it will be reflected in the EBS value. That is called mounting. You can create a folder name anything, sir. I have created a new drive now. That folder name can be anything. I have just created a folder name here also. I have created a folder name with a new disk now. This folder name can be anything. This folder name can be anything, and this folder name also can be anything. It is your wish. It is your wish. When you want to do the mounting, you are creating some directory. The directory name can be anything. The directory name can be anything. Directory name can be anything. Understood? Yeah. Sudo mount I'm using, guys. Sudo directly I have connected with the sudo. Directly I have connected with the sudo. Okay. Yeah, here I have logged in as a sudo user. That's why I'm not writing sudo mount. Sudo I am already using. I'm connecting with the sudo. I'm connecting with sudo. If you want to do this mounting, then you can do like this. First you execute sudo s. Then you are connecting as a sudo user. Then you can do the mount directly, or else you can do like this also, sudo. That's fine. Okay, guys, can you practice this? Can you practice this task today? Is this document sufficient for you to complete this today's lab task? Is this document sufficient to complete the today's lab task? Yes, no? Yeah, the thing is you have to create the EC2. Yeah, we can detach additional volume also when the instance is running. Forcibly you have to do that. Forcibly you have to do that. Force detach you can do when the instance is running. Create the EC2, create the EBS, attach EBS. If you want to attach the EBS, then you have to follow the steps from here. Check the EBS volumes, check the file, make the format, then switch to root, create a new drive, mount it, then check the mounts, then create the file, navigate to the new disk directory, which is under root, by using cd command, create a file, store the data. Create a file in the new disk directory and store the data. Once this part is completed, then detach the value from EC2 instance 1 and stop the EC2. Create the new EC2 instance, attach EBS value, connect to the newly created EC2 instance using putty, check the volumes available, create a directory, mount EBS volume to the directory, verify the data available in the EBS volume came to our directory or not. Yes, it is coming. That means EBS volumes are permanent. EBS volumes are permanent. The data which we are storing in the EBS, it is permanent. Guys, now in the real time, what we do in the real time is, in real time, we will use operating system in the root value. In the real time, root volumes contains operating system. Root volume contains operating system. Additional volumes contains our application and application configuration files. Our application and application configuration files. Why? Because if the instance is terminated, still our application and our application configuration files will be available. So when what purpose we are going to use the root value, for what purpose we are going to use the additional value? Root values contains operating systems. In additional volumes contains our application and application configuration files. We will use root volumes to store. Root volumes contains operating system. We will use additional values. We will use EBS additional values to store our application and application related configuration files. Root volumes contains operating system. We will use EBS additional volumes to store our application and application configuration files. Right. Why we will use this application configuration files in the EBS volume? If we want to run your application in the multiple EC2 instances, can you store your application in the every instance, or you will store your application in the EBS? Tell me guys, I want to run my application in the multiple servers. Are you going to keep your application in the every instance of root volume, or it is better to keep your application in the additional volume? Keep your application configuration in the additional volume and attach that additional volume to the EC2. Tomorrow, if your EC2 is gone, are you going to lose your application? Are you going to lose your application configuration? No, the data will be available permanently. The data will be available permanently. Now, do you understand in which scenario we are going to use EBS additional volumes in the real time? Yes or no? Now here, I want to run my application in multiple servers. I want to run my application in the multiple servers. Am I going to keep my application in all the servers? This is my server 1. This is my server 1. And this is my server 2. This is my server 1. This is my server 2. And this is my server 3. And this is my server 4. Server 4. Do you think that I will keep my application in all these servers? Do you think that I will keep my application in all these servers? Application configuration in all these servers? No. Why? All these servers are having root volumes. All these servers are having what? Server nothing but it is available in a machine. This is a root value. Root value is temporary. Then what I will do? I will create EBS additional value. What I am going to do? I am going to create EBS additional value. I am going to create EBS additional value. Additional value. I will store my application in this EBS additional value. I'm going to store my application in the EBS additional value. Are you guys getting my point? Root volume will be available for every instance. That is temporary. Root volume will be available for every instance. That is temporary. Now I am going to create additional value. For my instance, I'm going to create one additional value. Additional value I am going to create for my instance. That is permanent volume, guys. Now, application I will store here. Application I will store plus application config files also I am going to store. Application I will store. Application config files also I am going to store here. Application config files also I am going to store here. Now, every instance is having some root value. Every instance is having some root value. The root volume is temporary volume. The root volume is the temporary volume. In this root volume, what we will have? In this root volume, what we will have? We will have only operating system, guys. Operating system will be available in the root volume. So that's why if you want to run your instance, operating system is mandatory. If you want to run your instance, operating system is mandatory. So where that operating system will be available in the EC2? Can you guys tell me where that operating system will be available in the EC2? Can I say that operating system available in the root volume? Can I say operating system is available in the root volume? Come on, guys. Can I say that operating system is available in the root volume? Now let me take like this. This is the root volume. Let me take like this. This is my root volume. What is the default root volume we are going to get for Linux? 8 GB. This is root volume. Root volume. What root volume? This is also from EBS only, guys. This is also from EBS. This is EBS root volume. This is EBS root volume. For every machine, we will have a EBS root volume. In the root volume, we are going to store our operating system. So if you want to run your application, root volume is mandatory or root volume is optional for your machines? Root volume is mandatory for your machine or root volume is optional for your machine? Root volume is mandatory or root volume is optional? Root volume is mandatory. Optional, Vinod, Nidrabotunara? Vinod is saying that root volume is optional. Are you sleeping? Concentrate, man. Understand how much efforts I'm keeping to explain these concepts. I'm not just teaching you concept. I'm teaching you scenario also. When to use what. I'm not just teaching you theoretically. I'm teaching you practically. I'm giving you real-time use case also, where we are going to use EBS in the real-time project. Understand how much effort I'm keeping to explain you the subject. Give some value for my efforts, man. We are not just teaching for money. We are teaching from heart. If I teach for money, by this time I would have completed AWS. It will not take this much time. Within 20 days, 30 days, we can complete AWS. But still we are struggling to understand one service in the AWS. I want to discuss everything in depth with real time. I completed the lab session. Then why I am explaining the scenario? To give you more clarity. I want to make you as an experienced AWS engineer, AWS DevOps engineer. If I complete my lab, completed, I can close the session. I can go and have my dinner. I can leave the class. I can give these notes and I ask you to practice. But I'm not doing that. I'm explaining the scenario also. Understand how much effort your trainer is keeping. And I want the same effort from your side also. Otherwise, there is no use. I can leave the class after the lab is completed. But why I am taking a diagram and why I am giving the scenario? To give you more clarity, man. Please give me proper environment. I will give you in-depth subject. The advantage is I'm not just a trainer. I am working in the company. I am sharing my real-time experience with you. It is not just like a theoretical training. I'm sharing my practical experience with you. Please realize the importance. Okay, now tell me, EBS root volume is mandatory for the EC2 instance or EBS root volume is optional for the EC2 instance? EBS root volume is mandatory for the EC2 or it is optional for EC2? Is it mandatory or it is optional? It's mandatory. What will be there in the EBS root volume? What will be there in the EBS root volume? Operating system. So can we run a machine without operating system? No, that operating system will be there in the EBS root volume. Can I detach the root volume from the EC2? Can I detach the root volume from the EC2? No. Whenever you create the EC2, by default root volume is created. Whenever you create the EC2 instance, by default EBS root volume will be created and it will be attached to EC2. That is mandatory. That is mandatory. You cannot detach the EBS root volume from the instances. All right. Now, if I store my application in the root volume, if I store my application configuration in the root volume, then what is the problem? If I store my application in the root volume, what is the problem? Come on. Come on, guys. What is the problem if I store my application in the root volume? Root volumes are temporary. If your instance is deleted, your application also will be deleted. Temporary storage. So now, what is the permanent storage that I can use for store the data? EBS. What is that EBS full form? Elastic Block Store. Up to how much max data, how much data that I can store in the EBS? 16 TB is the maximum. So EBS category is also there, guys. In the interview, they will ask you how many types of volumes are available in the EBS. How many types of volumes are available in the EBS? That can be a certification question. And they may ask you a question in the certification like this. Can we detach a root volume from the EC2? Can we detach EBS root volume from the EC2 instance? That is a certification question. EBS root volume is mandatory, guys. We cannot detach the EBS root volume from the instance. Now, the root volumes are temporary volumes. So once your instance is removed, then that data also will be removed. So that's why what I am doing, I'm creating an additional volume. I'm creating an additional volume and I am storing the data into this additional volume. I'm storing the data into this additional volumes. Are you guys able to understand? Are you guys able to understand? Come on. Come on, guys. Do you understand that? Why we are storing the data in the EBS value? Permanent storage. Permanent storage. Look at this diagram so that you will get the clarity. Look at the diagram, you will understand the clarity. You will get the clarity. Right. Guys, now the question is, can we attach one single EBS value to multiple instances? That is the question. Can we attach one EBS value to multiple EC2 instances? Can we do that? Come on, guys. Can we do that? Can we attach one volume to multiple instances at a time? By default, do we have that option? Do we have that option? Attach volume, is it coming now? No. No. Let's go to the volumes concept. Create a volume. Create a volume. Availability zone. Select the volume category. Provisioned IOPS. Provisioned IOPS volume. Availability zone throughput. Add tag. Create volume IOPS. Provisioned IOPS. Attach. Don't create a volume for snapshot. What is this, guys? What is this? Multi-attach is available or not? Multi-attach is available or not? For which category of EBS multi-attach is available? For all categories, do we have multi-attach option? For all categories, do we have multi-attach option? No. No. Throughput, do you have multi-attach option? No. For which volume we have multi-attach option? Provisioned IOPS IO2 category. Only for IOPS IO2 category having multi-attach option. If you use this EBS volume, then you can attach that volume to multiple instances at a time. You can attach that volume to multiple instances at a time if it is a multi-provisional IOPS volume. Now you can attach it. You can attach that volume to multiple instances at a time. Now here you can attach it. Here you can attach this volume, and you can attach this volume, and here you can attach this volume. When I can do this kind of attachment, if that volume type is a multi-provisional IOPS volume, if it is belongs to multi-provisional IOPS volume. Okay, so root volume, root EBS volume, EBS root volume will be created by default. EBS root volume, EBS root volume will be created by default. When we create EC2 instance, when we create EC2 instance, EBS root volume will be created by default. We cannot detach EBS root volume from EC2. EBS root volume from EC2. To run the EC2 instance, EBS root volume is mandatory. To run EC2 instance, EBS root volume is mandatory. EBS root volume is mandatory. By default, EBS additional volumes you can attach and detach. EBS additional volumes we can attach and detach. We can attach and detach. All right. Note, IOPS volumes, IOPS volume, provisioned IOPS volume supports, provisioned IOPS, IO2 supports multi-attach. Supports multi-attach means we can attach volume to multiple EC2 instances at a time. To multiple EC2 instances at a time. You got it? You got the clarity now? Yes, you can attach multiple volumes to the one instance at a time. That's also possible. I have created two volumes. Can I attach 2 volumes to one instance? Yes, you can do. You can do that also. 2 or many EBS additional volumes to the servers at a time. Yes, you can do that. By default, 1 volume can be attached to one instance. If you want to attach 1 volume to multiple instances, then what should you do? If you want to attach 1 volume to multiple instances, what you need to do? What type of volume we need to use? Can you go for general purpose volume for multi-attach purpose? No. Which volume support? IOPS, IO2 supports multi-attach facility. You need to check that checkbox. Do you want to go for multi-attach or not? Okay. Fine, guys. Yeah, good. Guys, do you understand the today's session? Today's session is very important. It is a practical, theory plus practical. Amazon EBS volume, types of volumes, and the lab session, and we understand when to use root volumes and when to use additional volumes that we discussed in the today's session. I will upload these notes and the diagram in the website now. Please download it and complete your practice before coming to tomorrow's session. Thank you, guys. If you detach the root volume, then your OS also gone. If you detach your root volume, your OS is gone. You cannot start that instance. That is what I have mentioned here. We can detach EB, we cannot, we should not, sir. This point is wrong. We should not detach root volume from EC2. We should not detach. We should not detach root volume from EC2. We can do that, but we should not do that. To run the EC2 instance, EBS root volume is mandatory. EBS additional volumes we can attach and we can detach. Provisioned IOPS supports multi-attach, means we can attach volume to multiple EC2 instances at a time. Okay, we can attach them to multiple volumes at a time. Elastic block store, AWS EBS. That is elastic block store. Samjhay? Here what we will have? We'll have OS. Operating system will be available there. Operating system will be available there. Attach. Got it? Look at the diagram, it will give you clarity. EBS root volumes. All right. Yes, if you detach root volume, OS is gone. You can't start the EC2. You can't start the EC2. Thank you guys. With this, I'm stopping for today. We'll continue in the tomorrow session. Bye-bye. Good night.